This is Chicken Philosophy, the Meccan Revelations, part 58, in which I will pick up right where Gwydion left off in part 57. If this is your first time here on Chicken Philosophy, or checking out the Meccan Revelations on Chicken Philosophy, and you'd like to start at the beginning or just somewhere other than part 58, you can click the playlist right there and have happy surfing. Bye! Okay, now that it's just us, Kashmir! And that Kashmir is a state. I mean, you know, it's a type of fabric. It's also a state in India. Let's put it up somewhere, I don't know. Now you know a little bit of Indian geography. And I am currently speaking to you from Goa, which, you're seeing. And the footage you just saw was from yesterday in Maharashtra, right next to Goa, just above it, sort of. And so that brings me to the beverage. The beverage is a cup of coffee, black, right? And now, some of you might be thinking, Edward, really? Kashmir? You're going to play Kashmir while you're reading some Islamic mysticism? Isn't that a little insensitive? And you know what? You're right. So don't ever say that I didn't be sensitive to the feeling. See, it's green. Green 108 mala beads. Just to represent. Anyway, silliness. A little bit. So what are we doing here? Yeah, so that was Maharashtra. It was nice. It's not far, so I don't know. For a long time we didn't go up there, and then recently we've gone up there twice. So hence there's the video I made and put up on the Edward Reeb Travels video. But this time, it was much more casual. We were driving around, happened to go to Maharashtra for a little bit, check out some nice spots. So, no need to make a whole travels video about it. Alright, so this is the point in the episode where I change my glasses so that I can see up close. There we go. Nice. And, right. Now, we will decide whether to use Oud Bharat. I feel like we used it too recently. Oud Persia? Persia, does that say it? It's supposed to say Persia. We're going to go with this one. But before we do, Samarkand, we went with last time. Damascus, we went with kind of recently because Ibn Arabi settled in Damascus, though he was from what we now call Spain, and Arabia we went with recently, and Bukhara, we'll learn more about that next time. For now, we'll go with Oud Persia. So the olfactory senses will be more in alignment with with the poetry that we read at the beginning, because though Ibn Arabi, as mentioned, was from Al-Andalus, or Spain, and, settled in Damascus, the Persian Sufi poet Hafiz, a little less shaking today, that's good, was from Iran. So that's fun, right? I haven't been keeping up. How's that whole thing going right now? Oh, never mind. I don't want to bring that into this. The 98% of the point of chicken philosophy is to provide a space in the world right now where a person can take a little break from all that and focus on other things. More timeless things. Not timeless entirely, more timeless. Like someone in 200 years could enjoy this and only have a little bit of, like, those dated references when you watch an old movie and you're like, what is that about? And then there's an old person, oh, that's a reference to a man called John Wayne. And you're like, Wayne? I know Wayne. Like Wayne and Garth? Wayne's World? No. Anyway. So yeah, there's less of that, more of the stuff that... Anyway, this was written 600 years ago-ish. This was written 7,500 years ago-ish. Translated into English more recently, obviously. So let's see what God wants us to read today through bibliomancy. That's the page. Life starts clapping. Wherever God lays his glance, life starts clapping. The myriad creatures grab their instruments and join the song. Whenever love makes itself known against another body. The jewel in the eye starts to dance. Now, I can't help wondering if the jewel in the eye in this specific context is like code for little man in the boat. No. Sarasvati, please forgive me for dropping your physical form, which is to say books, knowledge. And so I dropped it on the floor. You shouldn't do that with books. Sarasvati doesn't like it. But if you apologize afterward, then it's okay. Same with money. Lakshmi doesn't like it. You can just pick it up. And you don't have to don't touch it to your mouth because it's dirty. But get it near your mouth and kind of and hold it to your third eye. And remember to thank Lakshmi for money itself, whether you have 1 penny or whatever. Because God and Mammon, right? It's the devil. Just kidding. Today we're going to be reading about Jesus and Jahaya. Now you're probably thinking, I don't know this Jahaya. Well, that's Arabic for John the Baptist. So perhaps you know Jahaya. I'm not pronouncing it. Jaya? Jesus and Jaya in the second heaven. Where's the second one? Which one's the first one? I don't know. Maybe these things will become clear. So, have I piqued your interest yet? No peeking. Ibn Arabi next encounters Jesus and his cousin Yahya. Did I say Jaya? Y-A-H-Y-A with a little hat. Parentheses, John the Baptist, and parentheses. Moving forward, I know it's been distracting, and I apologize for the past 57 episodes in which I've been mentioning every bracket parenthesis. From here on out, I'm going to stop doing that. It's not useful. I mean, my reasoning was that it's good to know, like, when the translator adds a word that wasn't there for context, just so you know that it was added for context. Like, if it changes the meaning in a particular way, or if it's unnecessary, in my opinion, I might stop and talk about it. But moving forward, I'm just going to go ahead and read it as if it were part of the text to make it a little less. Okay. Ibn Arabi next encounters Jesus and his cousin Yahya in the third heaven, the two figures being linked here by their association in the Quran with life, both animal and spiritual. Why isn't spiritual in quotes? Life is in quotes, animals in quotes, spiritual not in quotes. Perhaps it has something to do with sulfur, salt, and mercury, and how Mercury writes the other two into existence. Right? The Holy Spirit moving through. I don't know. Probably not. The shaykh, like the priest or the Sufi person with authority in spiritual matters. The dude. The shaykh, I think Ibn Arabi is the shaykh in this context, but there are more than one. You know, if you say the teacher and you're in Miss Wilson's class, you're talking about Miss Wilson, right? Anyway, the shaykh first asks Jesus about his life-giving powers, and is told that they ultimately come from Gabriel. It says here, we know he's saying Jibriel, as in the archangel. Do they call it an archangel in Islam? Angel, archangel, who dictated the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he. Don't want to push it too much. Anyway, you know, that's Gabriel. Gabriel. Editor Edward, can we have a flashback to that cool episode where BT breaks down all the L and Gabriel stuff? In the book lately, Meccan Revelations, he's been talking a lot about the divine name Allah, which of course is derived from the Hebrew divine name El. And you may or may not know that the entire Quran was given to the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he, of course, by the Archangel Gabriel, or Jibriel, as it's known with the Arabic accent pronunciation. So I'll just real quick invoke Got a nice blue, the L of water. Here you can see in the context of the microcosmic elemental directions, you've got water in the west, okay? And in that same context, we'll call on the archangel of the west. Very nice. So now we've got El and Gabriel, or Allah and Jibriel, present for... Okay, you can put me back to normal now. Whew, all right. Thank you, Floating Head BT, for elucidating? Is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, parentheses, as the universal spirit, okay. Gabriel in the form of the universal spirit. So if Gabriel can take the form of the universal spirit, then when he showed up and said, hey Mary, something's going to happen right now, did he turn into the thing that then, let's say, went in? Quote, no one who revives the dead revives them except to the extent of what he has inherited from me. Is this Gabriel talking? So such a person does not occupy my station in regard to that life-giving power, just as I do not have the station of one, i.e. Gabriel, who granted me the power of reviving the dead. End quote. No, that was Jesus talking. They should have put it in red letters, then I would have known. But he's saying, oh, no one in my station can revive the dead except through Gabriel. All right, cool. Nice. Now we have italics, meaning it's Michel Chodkiewicz talking, narrating, summarizing. Ibn Arabi then turns to Yahya, or John, who clarifies a long series of questions. Now, for those who don't know, there's John the Baptist. This is John the Baptist. There's John the Apostle, also, the one credited as being the author of the Gospel of John, but he wasn't, obviously. It was the Virgin Mary. Mary Magdalene. It was probably not John. But anyway, let's just pretend. We'll say it was John. He wrote the Gospel of John. And then there's John of Patmos. He's the guy who was on the prison island eating moldy mushrooms and hallucinating the book of Revelation. So, 3 Johns, don't get confused. Yochanan. Speaking of Johns, my dad was a John. Not that he wasn't a John in the sense of like the slang term for a person who visits Mary Magdalene, No, that's a George thing, or Pope. Who was the Pope that slandered Mary Magdalene and made her the same as the adulterous woman, and then everybody did some math and decided she was a prostitute too? I forget. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, so how many details there? I want to share something with you, but I don't want to share like other people's personal things. So I'll just say this. One time my wife Piyu, that's Piyu with me yesterday in Maharashtra, 6 years ago, let's say, she had a dream, very powerful dream. And she described these characters in the dream to me. And I said, oh, that kind of reminds me of this. And I unrolled this old painting that my dad had made. And she was like, yeah, that they were the ones in my dream. So there's always been this kind of interesting connection between my wife and my dad. And usually people, with the whole Oedipal thing, it's like, what's your mom? You're like, is it? But I don't know. Maybe sometimes the wires are a little different than old Freud and his old assumptions. Anyway, what am I talking about? So last night, or this morning really, I had a dream in which I had a bunch of things up on the wall related to my dad and the years he spent in college. Those who are watching everything know I had the ring, and I was like, I think this is from his post-grad or whatever. And and so Piyu was there in the dream, and she was like absent-mindedly playing with her lipstick. And while she was talking to me, she starts writing on the wall underneath these things related to my dad's college years. And then I'm like, what did you just write? And then she's like, I did that? Oh my God. And it was like explaining his areas of focus and, like what he got his master's in and all these different things. Like it was my dad wanting to, pass on more specific information. And yeah, at least in the dream, it was in the form of Piyu just absentmindedly writing with her lipstick. So that was very interesting. And fuck it, Editor Edward, could you dig that audio up and put a picture of my dad up and play it?
BA in English at the Principia College, June 11th, 1962. MA in English, CSCLA, February 4th, 1966. Credentials. State of California Standard Teaching Credentials with a specialization in junior college teaching, valid for life. Number 1048 JCL, issued April 14th, 1966. Subject area, English. The California Community Colleges Limited Service Credential, valid for life. Number 21158, issued May 19th, 1972. Subject area, Psychology. The California Community Colleges Supervisor Credential, valid for life. Number 21159, issued May 30th, 1972. Academic employment. 1966 to present time, that was August of 1993, with the Department of English and Foreign Languages at Pasadena City College. Full-time since September 1967. Representative courses taught. Sub-remedial freshman English, remedial freshman English, first semester freshman English, second semester freshman English, English literature, poetry appreciation, cooperative education. Course designs and special projects. Participated in the Wright Institute Conference on Minority Curriculum Development, 1969. Member of English Department Committee to Restructure English for Minority Students, TCB, wrote Committee Report, 1969. Designed and taught pilot courses in Mexican-American Literature, English 47, 1969 to 1970. For the Department of Social Science, redesigned Mexican Philosophy, Philosophy 31, 1970. For the Department of Guidance and Counseling, redesigned College and Career Planning, 1972 to 1973. Rewrote Student Handbook to a 256-page manuscript. Taught classes and worked one-on-one with students. Chaired meetings to coordinate other teaching faculty and counselors. Participated in the design of multi-courses in mechanics, spelling, and vocabulary building, 1976 to 1977. With Mr. Schnabel, then chairperson of the art department, and Mr. Richard J. Pierce, then chairperson of the life sciences department, designed and taught interdisciplinary courses in humanities, Humanities 1, 1981. Professional organizations. Member, NEA, National Education Association. Member, CTA, California Teachers Association. Chapter President, Pasadena City College Chapter, CTA 1973 through 1974. With Dr. Harry Sarkisian as Executive Directory, upgraded books and records. Held meeting which kept PCC faculty at the CTA during UTLA controversy in 1973. Member, Faculty, Senate Board at Pasadena City College representing the English Department 1970 to 1971. Teaching and course design other than at Pasadena City College. Spring Quarter 1969 taught Ideas in America, American Studies 401 at California State College at Los Angeles. CSCLA, now CSULA, part-time. Spring Semester 1973, Fall Semester 1976 taught Developmental Communication for the Title III Veterans Incentive Program at East Los Angeles College, ELAC, part-time. Redesigned Developmental Communications 22, Communications Laboratory, so that it operated like the CCP program at Pasadena City College, mentioned previously. In the process, elevated the mean enrollment retention from 12.5% to 75% as of spring semester 1973 till the program's termination. Duties and responsibilities included teaching, designing, and coordinating the orientation package with all teachers and counselors involved in the program, one-on-one counseling, and handling student emergencies and other crises. Consulting, writing, and other work. Since 1975, I have done personal interview and CV packages for numerous clients, assisted them in job placement, etc. From 1971 to 1980, with Kenneth D. Courtney and Associates, developed business and marketing product placement opportunities in the Los Angeles and Vancouver, British Columbia areas. Wrote product descriptions and assisted in preparation of marketing reports. Compiled and coordinated information gathered from field operatives. Developed experience in handling emergencies, etc. From 1983 to 1984, personal manager of Michael A. Calabrese. Gained experience managing client in beginning acting career, including finding outside funding for client for acting classes, which led him to appearances in commercials and walk-ons. Found funding to help a pilot recording for the client. From 1987 to 1989, worked with David D. Zink, Ph.D. Designed and edited Posadia 1988 newsletter, numbers 1 through 5, from inception till project termination. Served as the executive secretary for the Institute for Planetary Studies, IPS. Duties in that context included setting up database, mailing lists, and kept records. Prepared manuscript for the second edition of The Stones of Atlantis, published in New York by Scribner's, 1990. Acted as a liaison for Dr. Zink with regard to the archiving of his personal papers in the World Exploration Collection of the American Heritage Center at the University of Wyoming. Handled transportation for the Harmony Grove expedition in September 1988. Conducted frequent four-wheel drive scouting expeditions to geodesic sites of interest during 1988 and 1989. I got to ride along for some of those. From 1989 ongoing with the Louisiana Mound Society. Awarded life membership 1989. From 1989 through the present, have published numerous letters and articles in the Louisiana Mound Society newsletter, LMSN. Appointed editor for Phenomenology and Current Affairs with the LMSN, May 1992. Letters, announcements, and articles in the LMSN. Oh, good, he wrote these down because I wouldn't possibly be able to remember them. These are the titles of the articles. Possible California megalithic site recorded. Letter to editor in response to W.R. McGlone on seriousness, humor, and the scientific method. Measurement of niches in Reebstone reported. Letter to editor reporting Cheeseman and Tomlinson's encounter with the Tmong, which may indicate a connection between the Hmong and the Preteni in Aesop 18. Summer solstice photos, Reebstone. I don't know about this Reebstone. I'm going to have to look into this. Proposal. A Nobel for Barry Fell. The World of Scholarship. Power Shift. A review of Sharon Begley's The First Americans. Newsweek Special Columbus Issue, Fall-Winter 1991. Worldview. What should and should not be printed. Worldview. Debunkeries and counter-debunking. Crop Circles. Bulletin. Should it be called the Emperor's New Clothes Syndrome? If collecting isn't looting, then what should it be called? Also, he spoke at the 1992 ISAC meeting at Columbus, Georgia on October 12, 1992 on the influence of the current archaeological research and discoveries of pre-Columbian immigrants to and settlements on the North and South American continents. 1993 to date, other activities. As of March 26, 1993, editor of the California private lender Schneider Reeb Information Services, Glendale, California. As of April 1, 1993, member, editorial board, The Ancient American, publications to date in The Ancient American. The Stone Faces of the Ancient Americans, The Book Review, a work for which the time has come, Ethel Stewart's The Dean and Nadine Indian Migration 1233 AD, Escape from Genghis Khan to America. Other organizations. From 1968 to 1970, member of Southern California Alumni Chapter of Kappa Delta Pi, an honor society in education. Program director 68 to 70, vice president 1970. From 1979 to 1982, member board of advisors, Pasadena Foothill branch of the Urban League of Greater Los Angeles. From 1981 ongoing, third degree Lexington Lodge, number 104, free and accepted Masons, El Monte, California. From 1989 ongoing, member the Epigraphic Society. From April 1992 ongoing, member the Leif Erikson Society. Additional experience. Extensive travel in the Orient and Europe. Reasonable fluency in French, some work in German. Extensive training and practice in various Oriental and Occidental meditation techniques. Fancy words for Eastern and Western. Hobbies include interest in UFOlogy, paranormal research, phenomenology, esoteric symbology, the collection of meditational and religious devotional artifacts, and rare works on these subjects.
All right, so there you have a little bit more of the academic autobiography of John Dan Reeb, which would have been probably his most cherished, probably tied with his esoteric accomplishments. I also have he wrote an esoteric, when he was applying for some cult, this guy Rama, who ended up in prison, I'm sure, for scamming people, he was trying to convince Rama that he was a good esotericist, and so he wrote his whole esoteric biography, and it's in a binder that I have in a box somewhere, so one day I'll dig that up and do something with it, I don't know, share it with the world in some form, like I just shared that. You get more than you bargain for, and different things than what you are interested in when you tune into Chicken Philosophy. That's for sure. Anyway, now that we've done the John thing to death, I gotta go to the John. Only kidding. Okay, Ibn Arabi then turns to John, who clarifies a long series of questions involving the references to him and his relations with Jesus in the Quran and Hadith. Finally, after a brief excursus on the nature of spiritual procreation and marriage in paradise, Yahya explains why it is that he moves back and forth between the heaven of Jesus and the sphere of Aaron, where Muhammad met him, and where Ibn Arabi will encounter him later, and sometimes dwells with Joseph and Idris as well. Editor Edward, I'm pretty sure this is Joseph and the amazing Technicolor band coat we're talking about, but who was Idris? Enoch. That's the short answer. A little bit more expounding. Idris is an ancient prophet mentioned in the Quran, whom Muslims believe was the second prophet after Adam. He is the third prophet mentioned in the Quran. Islamic tradition has unanimously identified Idris with the biblical Enoch. Now, Enoch disappeared and was with God or something like that in the scriptures of the Tanakh or Old Testament for you Christian folk. And according to the Kabbalah, he became the archangel Metatron, the highest of the archangels, associated with Keter, the white one at the top. Anyway, he's also known as the Lesser Yahweh, the Demiurge. No, that's a different guy. Anyway, and also he was said to have been given the celestial language by angels. Hence, when old John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 16th century started scrying and working out the Enochian language and system, they called it Enochian after Enoch or Idris. Thank you for clarifying that, Editor Edward. Most of the themes, such as the interrelations of life, spiritual knowledge, and the divine inspiration of the prophets, mentioned only elusively in this section, are treated in greater detail in the chapters of the Fusus on Jesus and Yahya. Fusus. Anyway, okay, so this next section is called Joseph and the Third Heaven. And this is again italics, so it's Mr. Chodkowitz explaining. This encounter takes the form of a monologue in which Joseph explains to Ibn Arabi the true intentions of one of the prophet's references to him. Muhammad talking about Joseph, right? As well as the meaning of certain verses in the Surah of Joseph, chapter 12 in the Quran. Did you know that there was a Surah of Joseph in the Quran? Of course you didn't. Maybe you did. If you did, please accept my sincerest apologies for everything I have to apologize for. Anyway, what are we doing here? Mentioned only elusively, yes, no. These discussions are the occasion for the following spiritual advice. Now, here we have a little bit of actual Ibn Arabi talking, translated into English 700 years later. This is a lesson for you, that your soul does not follow the same course in something where it has no direct experience, as the person who undergoes that experience. So do not say, quote, if I were in the place of that person when such and such was said to him and he said such and such, I would not have said that. End quote. Universally applicable good advice there, Ibn Arabi. Thank you. I think we all can benefit from that. You weren't there. You didn't have the knowledge of how things turned out as a result of what that other person did. You don't know if you would have said so. You probably would have been different because you're a different person, but don't be like, oh, they should have said this. I would have done this. There was that, what's her name? There's a comedian, Editor Edward. What's the comedian's name? Maria Bamford. Thank you, Editor Edward. And could you play the clip?
So what do you do for a living? What kind of work do you do? I'm a comedian. I just thought if I did comedy, I'd do like Seinfeld. I'd do like joke, get a TV show, and then just coast. So what do you do for fun? What kind of work do you do for fun? I'm making an art class at the Wizard of Art. Yeah, I always thought if I did art, I'd do like Picasso, you know, that just blows people's minds. Then make 1 million of them, make tote bags, keychains, and just coast.
Thank you, editor. Yeah. Well, if I were doing that, then... She said it well. All right, I would not have said that. End quote. No, by God, if what happened to him happened to you, you would say what he said. Because the stronger state of direct experience controls the weaker one, i.e. of whatever you might imagine. That i.e. of whatever you might imagine was in bracket parentheses added by the translator, so you'd know what he was talking about. Get the wrong idea. Okay, next, Idris and the fourth heaven. And you all know who Idris is because of Editor Edward. Thank you, Editor Edward. I will find out later when I become Editor Edward. Did you know that that's me? Anyway, if I were him, I would have said, this is Michel, upon his arrival in the fourth and central pivotal heaven, that of the sun and the symbolic heart of the cosmos. Tree of Life me? So we're talking about Typhoid, probably, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if there's a direct one-to-one correlation with this diagram. Was there some form of it when he was alive? Probably. But maybe slight differences between the Islamic cosmology and the Hebraic, Kabbalistic, and Christian Kabbalah versions. It's raining. It's raining nicely, quietly. Maybe you'll hear it soon. Yes. The heart of the cosmos. Ibn Arabi is immediately greeted by Idris, who calls him, quote, the Muhammadan inheritor, end quote. Ibn Arabi either thinks very highly of himself, or he objectively observes that he's in a very high position. Or maybe, like we're all inheritors of something. I inherited Mather's ring. I am the, you might say, inheritor of S.L. McGregor Mathers, and that would be accurate, and I do think very highly of myself, so it's a bad example. Where were we? An allusion to the Shaykh's conception of his own unique role as the, quote, seal of Mohammedan sainthood, and obviously, when he says seal, he doesn't mean the fish. I know, it's not a fish. Ibn Arabi then asks him a series of brief questions which relate to the traditional accounts concerning Idris in one or another of his manifestations, or to his spiritual function as the perennial Pole, with a capital P, so we're talking about Polish people. No. We're talking about Poles. Like, that's, I don't know if you knew, I went through a pole dancing phase. It was right before my leaving California permanently phase. That's not a phase. At least if the last 8 years. How long has it been? That was 2017. I hit the road. And by the road, I mean the sky. And it is 2025. So coming up on 8 years. Yeah. Anyway, pole and summit of the spiritual hierarchy. 3 dots. Ibn Arabi talking now. I said to him, quote, it has reached me concerning you that you are a proponent of miracles. End quote. Then he said, quote, were it not for miracles, I would not have been raised up to a lofty place. End quote. Quran 1957. Good year for Chevys. Felix, anybody? So I said to him, quote, where is your spiritual rank in relation to your place at the center of the universe? End quote. And he said, quote, the outer is a sign of the inner. End quote. Getting some good zingers today. I said, quote, I have heard it said that you only asked Lawheed of your people and nothing else, i.e. no separated revealed law, end quote. Editor Edward, what is Lawheed?
Tawhid or
Tawhid, in a moment you'll realize that's a T, not an L, refers to the concept of God's absolute oneness or unity. That's in mainstream Islam. In Sufism, it's experienced in a deeper, more mystical way. Sufis seek to realize the oneness of God through spiritual practices and experiences, ultimately leading to a state of annihilation of the self and union with the divine. Excuse me, Tawhid. Tawhid. I'm sure editor Edward clarified that. Anyway, he said, quote, "And they did not even do that. Now I was a prophet, Nabi, see Quran 1956, don't know. Good year for Fords. Calling them to the word, lowercase word, don't get too excited. Italics though, so something's going on. I.e. the outward profession of Tawhid, not Tawhid itself. Any relation to cowhide? No relation whatsoever. Itself. For no one has ever denied Tawhid. Is that exclamation point? So that's how I'm choosing to communicate the exclamation point. End quote. I said, quote, "This is strange." End quote. Exclamation point. You know. 3 dots. Then I said, quote, "But the differences of opinion concerning the truly real and the things said concerning him have become quite numerous." End quote. Haven't they though? He said, quote, "It can only be like that, since the matter is perceived differently according to the constitution of each individual." The end quote was forgotten in this case. There's a footnote. It's footnote 119. So maybe somebody forgot to put on their reading glasses and saw 1-1 and thought it was an end quote, but it's not. Guys, in your next edition, page 221, fix it, please. Thank you. Anyway, I said, quote, "But I thought that all of you prophets, the whole group of you, did not differ concerning him." End quote. Ibn. Are you, like, playing the role of the ignorant audience member so that you can, like, provoke him to say stuff and then you can stand back and be like, "Oh, I don't know, it's what the vision said." Because if you've read anything, I guess they really only read Muhammad, right? So that makes sense that they would assume that all true prophets say the same thing, because all true prophets are one guy. I mean, Jesus and John the Baptist, and apparently Idris are considered prophets, but only through the lens of the Quran. No Tanakhs for you, buddy. Or Jesus isn't in the Tanakh, but you know what I mean. So he replied, quote, "That is because we did not say what we taught concerning God on the basis of reasoning," or nazar, evil eye, it's commonly called in Urdu anyway. "We only said it on the basis of a common direct relationship with God. So whoever knows the realities knows that the fact that all of the prophets agree in saying the same thing about God is equivalent to those who follow reasoning all saying the same thing." No end quote. I said, quote, "And is the matter, i.e. the reality of things, in itself really as it was said to you by God?" You're starting to sound like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. In the Tanakh anyway. I don't know how that story was told in the Quran. But isn't that what he said? Did God really say that you would die if you ate the fruit? Well, that's what Adam said, he said, replied Eve. Or something like that. I haven't read the Bible. For the signs followed by the intellects of those who rely exclusively on reasoning indicate the impossibility of certain things you prophets brought concerning that. And quote, then he said, quote, the matter is as we prophets were told, and at the same time it is as whatever is said by whoever says his own inner belief concerning him. Sounds like Unitarian Universalism to me there, Idris. Since, quote within quotes, God is in accordance with the saying of everyone who speaks of him. It's a pretty wide umbrella. So that is why we only called the common people to the word, i.e. the verbal profession of Tawheed, not to the reality of Tawheed. End quote. To them I speak in parables, but to you I speak plainly. That was written down before. Somebody. Oh, no. If it's true, then it doesn't matter if it's plagiarism. I mean, if it's true, it's not plagiarism. If it's... Never mind. Okay. 3 dots. I said, quote, once in a visionary experience. Oh, that takes me back to my psychedelic days. I saw an individual circumambulating the Kaaba. We know what you're talking about. Who told me that he was among my ancestors and gave me his name. Then I asked him about the time of his death. He told me it was 40,000 years earlier. Well, there's no proof that they didn't have a Kaaba back then. And also that squirrels play poker when no one's looking. No. So I proceeded to ask him about Adam, because of what had been established in our chronology concerning his period, i.e. that it was much more recent. Then he said to me, quote, which Adam are you talking about? About the most recent Adam? End quote. All right. Idris said, quote, he told the truth. I am a prophet of God, Quran 1956, and I do not know any period at the close of which the universe as a whole stops. However, I do know that he never ceases creating the universe in its entirety. Tree of Life, please. So in the beginning, Ved Hashemim Ved Haaretz, Bereshit bara Elohim Ved Ha, so it's not like a long time ago.
It's happening now, not tomorrow. It's happening now.
Thank you, David Bowie. Again, same song, Outside. It's a good song. It's in the description. It's a good album. You know what happened was that fucking guy, I don't know, I forgot his name. Never knew a girl like you before. The point is, my mom and I were driving to Santa Barbara and we heard that song on the radio and we were like, what? David Bowie has a new album? Huh. So we stopped at Amoeba Records, I think. I think it was Amoeba Records. Is there one on the way to Santa Barbara? Regardless. Or was there back then. We went in and said, hey, we need the new David Bowie album. And they were like, it's right here. And they gave us Outside. Because that song wasn't David Bowie. It was someone else who just happened to sound vaguely like David Bowie. And so that was how I ended up with that album. And I enjoyed it a lot. I think there was a period of time where I called it my favorite David Bowie album. Did you know that I created David Bowie oracle cards? It's pretty silly. And I only did... The idea was that there would be a deck of key cards. and you would shuffle it and then determine which David Bowie deck you were going to draw from. And then you'd see, okay, I'm going to draw from, that album card. And then you have a stack of cards for that particular album, and there are lyrics, like random snippets of lyrics on each of the cards. And so then you'd, flip it over and it would say something rude, or whatever. So if you have some cardstock paper or can get some, and you have a nice color printer, you are just 30-40 minutes away from having 5 decks, I believe, 5 of the many decks. I stopped the project. I just abandoned it. But the link is in the description. Have a ball if there's any hardcore Bowie fans who would enjoy. See, what happened was I interviewed Lon Milo DuQuette. By I mean BT. Back then, I interviewed Lon Milo DuQuette, and he was talking about making a magical system out of Shakespeare's references to magic. And something about the way he described it inspired me to create David Bowie oracle cards. I think David Bowie had passed away just recently at that time. So I did that. Anyway, is there any way back to the point where we went off on that tangent? I don't know. There was something about the lyrics to Outside brought us there. Oh, right, it's happening now. Okay. He never ceases creating the universe in its entirety. That the whole of reality never ceases to be nearer and further. And that the appointed times apply to the particular created things through the completion of their periods of existence. And not to process of creation as a whole, not to the process of creation as a whole, since creation is continually renewed within the breaths at every instant, in bracket parentheses. Thus we know only what he has caused us to know, and what they do not comprehend, and they do not comprehend anything of his knowledge except for what he wishes. End quote. Quran 2:255. So I said to him, quote, then what remains until the appearance of the hour? End quote. That was hour within quotes within quotes. And he replied, quote, their reckoning has drawn near to people, but they are in a state of heedlessness, turning away, end quote, Quran 21:1. I said, quote, then inform me about one of the conditions of its drawing nearer, end quote. And he replied, quote, the existence of Adam is among the conditions for the hour. End quote. I said, quote, then was there another abode before this world other than it? End quote. He replied, quote, the abode of being, with a capital B, is one. The abode does not become nearer except through you. And the other world is not distinguished from it except through you! Exclamation point. But with regards to bodies, i.e., as opposed to man's inherent spiritual finality and progressive movement of return to his source, with a capital W, and bracket parentheses, good shout out to the Source family, Yahweh. The matter is only engendered states, transformations, and coming and going.
Going and going and coming, and always too soon. Right.
Thank you, Madeline Kahn. Of endless material forms, it has not ceased, and it never will. End quote. I said, what is there? End quote. He replied, quote, what we know and what we do not know. End quote. I said, quote, then where is error in relation to what is right. End quote. He said, quote, error, and not the lady from the James, secret letter of James, for the people following everything. It's the Nag Hammadi thing. Error is a relative matter, while what is right in the unchanging is the unchanging principle. So whoever truly knows God and the world knows that what is right is the ever-present principle, which never ceases to be, in parentheses, unnecessary. And he knows that error occurs through the opposition of the 2 points of view. Tagiraron, anybody? It's the disputers. It's the clip-off of Typhoon. Never mind. You'll find out in practice. But since the opposition, but since the opposition of the 2 perspectives is inevitable, then error is also inevitable. So whoever maintains the real existence of error also maintains the prior existence and reality of what is right. And whoever maintains the ultimate non-existence of error speaks what is right. Quran 78:38, and posits error as deriving from what is right. ... That's where we're going to close today. It's not the end of the section. It goes on. He talks to other folks in other heavens. At least one. The one I can see on this page. So I'll leave you in suspense. Today was fun, I think. Wasn't it? Cool. I enjoyed it. There it is. Next time on the Pymander Aquarian playlist, of which this is 986, 987 is going to be the life and liberation of Padmasambhava over on our sister podcast, Buddhist Books Podcast. And then after that, when we come back to chicken philosophy, it'll be Gwydion reading Carl Jung, Black and Red. This has been your blue and green episode for the cycle. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, month, year. And cheers. No end screen for today. Until next time.